Welcome to Black Gumbo Southern Gardening. Let's prune our fruit trees. It's time for our winter maintenance. This coming video is going to be one of the most boring videos you've ever seen, unless you have fruit trees. So I have a micro orchard in the backyard. If you've followed my channel, you can see from the very beginning, the very first apple tree we put in, the very first stone fruits we put in. And you can see over the years how we've pruned these to keep them small, and we've pruned them in certain ways. The stone fruits have a goblet shape, an open center, and the apple trees have what's called the modified central leader, which I explained in previous videos. But we're just going to go out and prune, and you can see the damage to my backyard that the freeze caused. My grass is dead. Lots and lots of catastrophe happened this past year. My goji berry is out of control. It died back several times throughout from the heat and from the freeze, but it keeps coming back. I gotta get that thing under control. But yeah, the backyard's a mess, but our fruit trees are doing just fine. So come along and let's go prune some fruit trees. This is my tropic gold apricot tree, and it was planted 1 year ago. 1 year ago, we pruned it down to, well, we took out the central leader. It was about this tall. We pruned it down to these main scaffolds. I don't know if you can see them. I'm trying to show you the whole tree. It's about 7 feet tall right now. We came and summer pruned at about this height. Summer pruning is supposed to stunt growth, but this tree responded by sending up these branches. What we're going to do is clear it out a little bit, thin it out, and we're going to direct the growth where we want it to grow. Winter pruning allows us to select what buds we want to grow, and to help shape the tree, we choose carefully. So first of all, I'm going to come in here and clear out any branches that are growing inwards. And I don't see a whole lot of them, but we've got some things right here that are kind of weird. That's too close to the, that's too close. We're going to just put those down there and feed them back to the tree. The way this is growing, I'm not liking some of the shape here. Got this growing in. Take that out. Let's see. You want it to go slow when you prune. Just walk around your tree and evaluate. This is a little weird right here. We've got 3 branches growing real close together, but they're not really crossing each other. We'll let that go. What I mainly want to do is prune this and cut it down to about this tall, because that's how tall I want this tree to be. I don't want it any taller than that. We're practicing what's called backyard orchard culture, where we keep our trees little so we can pick our fruit right here. Let's see. That's okay. That's okay for now. That's not a good look. It's going inward. Let's start bringing it down. Every one of these buds on these branches is a potential for being a branch. They'll also be leaves, but they can also form branches. So on a stone fruit like this, it doesn't really matter where you make your cut, so long as you cut just above. I'm going to cut these limbs about down to here, just above an outward facing bud, so that if it does branch, it'll branch outward. That's what we want. So I'm just going to begin taking these down. I want all my branches to be about the same height. This is 1 year of growth. This is a very vigorous tree, so I don't have to worry. I'm going to take this union off. I don't have to worry too much about stunting it here in the late winter, maybe even early spring. It's going to grow back just fine. In fact, by pruning it, we're going to encourage growth at these at the last bud. That's apical dominance of the tree's apical dominance wants to send all its energy, nutrition to this last bud on each branch. When you remove a branch, you want to do so down at the collar. That's where the branch meets the main trunk, or the other meets another larger branch. That tissue around the base is called the collar. And you want to, if you're going to take out a whole branch, get close to the collar there. That's always good practice. There we go. We've brought this tree under control a little bit more. This is year 2, going into year 2. I don't know if we can expect fruit in year 2, but hope so. All right, let's move on to this plum tree. Now with these stone fruit trees, you can see, I hope you can see that I'm going for an open center. What we did is we chopped this. This was a big, tall, you know, from the store, straight, long, skinny tree. When we planted it, we chopped it to knee high, and this tree is about 3 years old, and you can see we've been keeping it small. This tree's not as vigorous as that nectarine tree, but you see there's an open center. We try to keep an open center, so we're going to clear out some of these branches that are growing into the center. But what we did, we selected this, and this branch to be our main growing branches, and we're trying to keep them going outward and open in the middle. This one's a little puny because it's on the shaded side and doesn't get as much sun as these others. But I left it last year, and I'm going to leave it again this year. But we're going to do the same thing. We're going to clear out this tree of growth that we don't want, growth that's going into the center, weird growth like that branch. This one will be okay. That's not very good. Now we had some serious freezes this year, and well, in previous years, but these stone fruits have come through just fine. Want to take out branches that are crossing over. I need to mulch this one too. Let's see, a little dents in here, but I think we'll leave it. This tree has been topped. We summer pruned for stunting growth in the summer. All of these trees got summer pruned, and this one responded properly. It didn't put on a whole lot of growth from summer pruning. It's a little bit high right here. Again, I'm selecting my cuts above a bud that's shooting in the right direction that I want the tree to grow. I want this branch to kind of come out this way. So I've pruned it above the bud that's facing that way. I think that's good for this tree. You can always do a little bit more pruning. This apple tree is already busting out with new leaves. This is Shell of Alabama. This one did not fruit for me last year. This is year 4, going into year 4 on these apple trees. And what we're trying to do on these apple trees is we're growing these differently. This is a modified open center. A modified central leader. We want one trunk with a little tuft at the top like this, but we want these horizontal fruiting spurs, and we weighted these, and we actually tied them down and bent them, and so you can see now they're set in this growth habit. The more horizontal an apple tree is with its branches, the more fruit you're going to get on that branch. And we selected these branches by notching above a bud, and these trees responded really well. But here's what we have to do. We don't want this kind of growth. We don't want vertical growth. That may look crazy, but we don't need that. We don't need this. You know, that's got a nice bunch of flowers on the end. I'm gonna leave that against my better judgment. You know what? We need to take it. Do the right thing. Feed the tree back to itself. This we don't want. The reason we don't want this is our horizontal. We worked to get this horizontal, and we're going to have to work a little more to bring this down some and train this branch to be horizontal. 1, 2, 3, 4. Those are our main fruiting branches that we want to keep. This is too close to our fruiting branch, so we'll trim it off at the collar there. And the reason we're trimming it off is you don't want a bunch of heavy branches weighing down the trunk at the same spot, because that can weaken the plant. You want your branches to have enough trunk to support a heavy fruit-laden branch. That's why we've spaced them out. All right, we'll trim a little here at the top just to keep everything even, and that's it for the apple tree here. We'll repeat on all our apple trees. All right, here we have another tree that has responded well and has been shaped well, but we've also got some trouble branches. Here's one of my main branches. I've selected that one. I selected this one, or this one here, but it's a little small. We'll just leave that one alone. This one though, I've got it bent down this way. So I'm going to clear out all these other hanger-ons that are coming off of it, going the wrong way. And I'm going to clear this one out right here. Everything else, I think I'm going to leave it and see how this does this year. Again, you go slow when you prune. You know, we're not out here to take this tree down to nothing. You know, you gotta go slow. You can always come back if you think, well, it didn't work out that great. You can always come back. I have this branch training to go horizontal. Yeah, that's good. Now this poor tree hasn't done well. This is Reverend Morgan. This tree was, well, it's not growing vigorously. I need to train these to be horizontal. And I'm not going to trim anything off of this tree because there's hardly any branching. It didn't respond to my notching the way I wanted it to. I could use a branch right here, so I'm going to notch right above that bud and see if we can't force out a branch there. By notching, what you're doing is you're breaking the cambium. Cambium is the green layer underneath the bark that the phloem and xylem, the liquids and nutrients travel through that layer. If you break that layer right there, you fool the tree to think that this is the bud where apical dominance happens. That means it thinks this is the top of the tree. It doesn't really think, but you know what I mean. So if we can put a notch in that cambium just above that bud that we want to branch out, sometimes you can force out a bud. So we're going to notch that tree and leave the rest of it alone and start training these to go horizontal. All right, my last apple tree that needs pruning is a golden Dorset, and you can see our horizontal branches have responded well to training, but they've also shot up a bunch of suckers that we don't need. Well, I could probably train that branch. I'm going to leave this one on and train it to go horizontal too. I'm going to take these branches off. They're shooting straight up. I don't need them shooting straight up. Same thing here. We want horizontal growth on these branches later. But I am going to trim this down a little bit up here. Just a little. Keep it small. It's as big as I want my apple trees. I want them to beef up, but I don't want them any taller. Well, there we go. There's our pruning of our trees for winter. Fairly simple. We didn't do a whole lot today. We just did a little bit of maintenance, kept our trees short. That's the secret to backyard orchard culture. You can have dozens of trees in a small space. You can even plant similar trees in the same hole. Backyard orchard culture just means we're keeping our trees small and we're pruning them. Summer pruning and winter pruning. Winter pruning to promote growth and structure. Summer pruning to stunt growth. And we're pruning them to keep them where we can get the fruit. And well, if you're not going to have big trees, you can have lots of trees in a small space. As you see, I've got, 6 or 7 apple trees back here and 3 stone fruit trees all in the ground. And I've got a citrus plant, a citrus tree in the ground as well, so you can have a lot of fruit in one spot. But these apple trees, they are varieties that were selected because they grow in subtropical areas, and it gets hot here. We had a super heat wave this year, extreme temperatures this year. We set records at like 114, 117. I don't remember. It was in the teens, and it was hot, hot, hot. And that heat destroyed much of my garden. But these trees did just fine. They came through it like a champ. We also had some extreme freezes this year like we've had in the past several years that have killed off many of my plants, many of my trees. But these in the ground took it just fine. So if you're looking for a tree that handles extreme weather, then the tropical apricot tree, plums and peaches do fine. These apples do fine. I've got a King... what is that, a King Solomon? I've got a Shell of Alabama, a Golden Dorset, a Fuji, and an Anna, and something else, a Reverend Morgan. and all of these apples are doing fine. So if you want apple trees here in the South, you got to make sure you get the right kind. Hey, thanks for joining me today on Black Gumbo Southern Gardening. We're going to ramp up our videos and get going with our annuals, our tomatoes. We're going to talk about the single seed challenge. Going to have a lot of fun. So thanks for joining me. Subscribe if you like our content. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.